Next, I want to show you how to complete titles as a licensed New York motor vehicle dealer. You are going to complete a title differently than you ever have in the past once you've gotten your dealer's license, and you're going to be able to do what we call a reassignment. So you're going to be able to buy a vehicle from someone and turn around and resell it on the same title. That's called a reassignment. Only licensed motor vehicle dealers are allowed to do this. So you definitely need to know how to do this because there's going to be a lot of times where it's just you and a customer doing a deal, and your customer is going to expect you to know how to complete all the paperwork. So we're going to spend just a little bit of time on this. And when you're buying a vehicle at a dealer auction, you'll stand in line and the title clerk will say, sign here, and things like that. So they'll do it for you because at a dealer auction, they complete thousands of dealer titles every single day. So I want to do a scenario that's a little bit different. I want to go through a scenario where we're going to go buy a vehicle from an individual and we're going to mark it up as high as we can and we're going to resell it to another individual. And that way you're going to have complete oversight over the buy and complete oversight over the sell. So let's go ahead and complete a title and do an entire deal as a licensed New York motor vehicle dealer. Now, I'm sure you're aware of this, and I mentioned it before, but only you as a licensed motor vehicle dealer are legally able to buy a vehicle and then turn around and resell it without paying sales tax. Only licensed motor vehicle dealers can buy a vehicle and resell it without paying sales tax. Well, there's a lot of folks out there that want to buy and sell vehicles, but they don't want to go through the legal steps that you're going through to get a legal dealer's license, and they want to just buy and sell vehicles without a dealer's license. So this is what they'll do. They'll go buy a vehicle from someone and they'll ask that owner to just sign the back, and they'll illegally leave all the purchaser's information blank, and then they resell it. And they have broken several state laws by doing that because, number one, they hold a blank or open title, but sometimes we call that a skipped title because that person has illegally skipped the payment of sales tax and their name is not even on the transaction. So you definitely need to be aware of this when you're buying vehicles to resell from individuals. So how do you avoid those illegal titles? When you have found a vehicle that you're interested in purchasing from an individual, you just want to ask the very important question: is the title in your name? Simple question every time. When you're buying a vehicle from an individual, maybe you found a vehicle on Marketplace or Craigslist or something like that that you want to purchase, or maybe you've had somebody just drive into your lot and they want to sell a vehicle. Ask that person, is the title in your name? If they say, yes, the title's in my name, that's excellent. That's what you're looking for. But many times they'll say something like, well, no, the title's not in my name. I bought this car from my brother-in-law a couple months ago. He signed the back of it, and you can just come on over here and buy it from me. I do this all the time. That's that illegal transaction. That's a person that's acting as a New York dealer without a dealer's license, and they haven't went through the legal steps that you're going through to get a legal dealer's license, so they're trying to buy and sell vehicles immediately. So you want to make sure when you're buying a vehicle from an individual that you're only buying it from the person whose name is on the title. If you ask if their name's on the title and they say, well, I bought it from my neighbor last year, he signed the back of it, and you can just buy it from me, I do this all the time, well, they're breaking the law. Stay away from that transaction. And by the way, possession of that title is illegal in all 50 states. So when you're buying a vehicle from an individual, just verify that you are buying it from the person whose name is on the title. Now, once we verified that, let's go make the buy. We're going to go buy the vehicle. And as you see the back of a title here, there's a couple of components that I want to explain to you when you are buying the vehicle. The first thing you want to do is select a corresponding odometer box. Now, I'm assuming that the odometer is correct. And if the odometer, you assume that odometer is correct in that vehicle that you're purchasing, then you're going to check box number 1 that says that mileage is actual. Now, there could be a scenario, maybe you're buying a vehicle and the digital dashes went out, or maybe you remember those old mechanical odometers that had 5 digits that might have read 23,000 miles, but in most cases it was 123,000 or 223,000. If you suspect the odometer has rolled over, or possibly you're not able to verify that odometer because maybe a problem with the digital dash, then instead you'll check box number 2 that says exceeds mechanical limits. That's when you realize the odometer exceeds mechanical limits that cannot be verified. Now let's take a look at box number 3. You might buy a vehicle that has an incorrect odometer, and you need to check box number 3. So let's say, for example, you're buying a 1970 Chevy Nova from some guy, and he might tell you the old odometer quit working, and he yanked the old odometer out of the dash and put a new one in, and the old odometer read 80,000 miles, and you put a new one in that reads 30,000, or any scenario like that where the odometer is actually incorrect, and you want to check box number 3. So that tells all future buyers, warning, there's an odometer discrepancy. So make sure and write down the odometer reading right there. And if it is a mechanical odometer that only has 5 digits or 6 digits, then make sure and check those corresponding boxes as well, okay? Now, when you're buying the vehicle, you're gonna have the seller sign it on the back right there, and then you're gonna go ahead and be the buyer. Remember, the seller is the person selling you the vehicle, and you're the buyer, and you're buying the vehicle, okay? So you bought the vehicle on the title. Now, we're going to mark that vehicle up as high as we possibly can, and we're going to resell it back at our lot by scrolling down and selling the vehicle on the same title, okay? Remember, we bought it for the first section. Now we're going to scroll down. We're selling it to someone else. So what you're going to do now is you're going to go ahead and reassign this vehicle. And in this scenario, we're going to be the seller. You're going to be the seller because you're selling a vehicle, and when you've marked it up, then you're going to go ahead and put the buyer's information in there as well, and you're going to boot up Verify or discountdealercenter.com, whatever software that you're using to log that sale, and then discountdealercenter.com will interconnect automatically with Verify and run the entire transaction for you. So once you've done a couple of deals, you're going to be doing them with your eyes closed, and just make sure that you are never acquiring a vehicle with a blank title. Make sure you're only buying a vehicle from the person whose name is clearly printed on the title. Now, as a licensed New York motor vehicle dealer, you're going to need a copy machine because you're going to be documenting everything that you do. You're going to be creating a huge paper trail, and the state of New York does have specific records that you, as a licensed motor vehicle dealer in a state, are going to need to be aware of, okay? You're going to need to have a record of all vehicles bought, sold, traded, or leased. You need to have the names and addresses of all the persons that you've bought or sold vehicles to, along with the dates of sales, copies of all of your temporary certificates of registration, and all deal documents. And I want to remind you, one copy of all of the records goes to the customer and one goes to your dealer records. So you're never going to have too much paperwork, but you really want to make sure you have 2 copies of every document. And that's another great thing about discountdealercenter.com. It'll print up all of your deal docs for you automatically. And you just click the to button and you print up the customer's records that they'll take with them, and then you put the rest of the records, the other copy, into your deal jacket. So make sure you keep records of every single document. I just want to go down some of these records that'll be printed up by discountdealercenter.com. Here's your MV50 form that you can easily order 50 MV50 forms if you need those. Here is the temporary certificate of registration, receipt, and tear-off tag that you see right here. Here's a vehicle registration application that will be printed up automatically for your customer to take if they need to take that to the DMV. All the records are printed up automatically for you. So in the old days, we had to have a big list of documents that we kept on our desk to print everything up and correctly keep our records. Now, a good dealer management system runs all the software for you. So it'll also print up your vehicle registration application, odometer damage and disclosure statements can be printed up easily as well. So you want to verify everything with the odometer. Here's that dealer plate issuance form. Later on, after you've been experienced for a year, if you've had a license for a year and you want to be able to issue plates at your dealership, if you met those requirements we talked about a little bit earlier, then you'll easily be able to do that. Here's what's called a notice of lien form. If there's any type of loan on the vehicle, and later on in your dealer training course, we're going to cover lending extensively. So you'll be able to get loans for all your customers. But if there's a loan on a vehicle, then Discount Dealer Center will print up your notice of lien form for you. Or if you've ever need a duplicate title, you can certainly print those forms up. Has a big lending library, and it also has a forms library. Here's a salvage certificate that you might want to be aware of. And I want you to be very aware, New York's record-keeping law lines up with the federal government. You have to keep all records a minimum of 5 years. I want to repeat that very important statement. New York dealers are required to keep all records a minimum of 5 years. So please do keep that in mind. Once again, Dealer Center will integrate with Verify, get your loans approved. It has a New York dealer document library, completes all your transaction documents with the click of a mouse. I would really not run a dealership anymore, ever again, without a good dealer management system. Next, let's talk about dealer fees. Now, the majority of your profits will normally be the markup of the vehicle. This is where you're going to go to that dealer auction and buy that vehicle as low as you can and sell it to the retail customer as high as you can. That's the markup. That's your profit on a vehicle. The markup will normally be the largest portion of your profit. However, New York allows a dealer to charge what we call a dealer fee, okay? A dealer may charge a fee for ordering customer titles and special plates. A dealer may charge a fee of no more than $175 to order customers' titles or 75 or special plates. So you are allowed to charge a dealer fee, but it may not exceed $175. Now, if you are disclosing this, if you are charging this, you need to disclose this statement. Dealer's optional fee for processing application for registration and or certificate of title and for securing special or distinctive plates, if applicable. This is not a DMV fee. Okay, so you can put the fee right there. So you have to disclose this on some type of signage in your office and let the customer know that you are charging that. Now, I recommend that you charge this, but one thing I want you to be aware of, if you are charging a dealer fee, you'll never waive that fee, because I've seen cases in the state of New York where we'll have one dealer charging a $175 dealer fee to one customer. They charge $175 to the next customer. Then the third customer says they're not going to pay it, so they waive it for the third customer. Well, if you think about that scenario, that dealer had charged the previous customers additional fees, so that gave the previous customers recourse because they were charged additional fees. So what I'm getting at here, if you are a dealer fee charging dealer, you're going to set one dealer fee and charge that to every single retail customer. If you have a customer that says they're not paying no dealer fee, well, you don't waive the dealer fee. You can actually lower the price of the vehicle to where it equals the same. But a dealer fee charging dealer can never waive that fee, and you have to disclose that exact text in writing in your office. And if you think about this, even if you are charging the maximum $175, I mean, if you sold 10 vehicles in a month, I mean, there's an extra $1,750 of revenue that you brought in. So, I mean, it's up to you, but if you are going to charge a dealer fee, make sure you disclose that mandatory text right there and set one exact fee, list that on the text, and charge that exact fee to every single retail customer. Now, to end this unit, I want to talk about license suspensions, because I really feel like the DMV in New York can giveth and they can also taketh away. There's a lot of rules and regulations that you definitely need to be aware of. So let's talk about some things that could get your license suspended. Fraud or dishonesty. You can never lie to a customer. Let's say, for example, a customer asks you if there's anything wrong with a vehicle and you tell them no when you know the transmission's slipping, and they buy the vehicle and they pay you. You've lied to somebody to get them to pay you money. And that is fraud on all levels. You can never lie to a customer, okay? If you're aware of a mechanical defect, you need to disclose that to the customer in writing. Now, there could be a scenario where a customer asks you if anything's wrong with the vehicle and you thought it ran great, and then the engine blows the next week. Well, you didn't break any laws, but, if you had a service manager telling you that the engine's going to blow in a couple weeks, you better sell that pretty quickly, and you didn't disclose that engine defect to the customer and they paid you, that means you basically lied to a customer to get them to pay you money. So you can't do that. You can't run misleading advertising. Obviously, you can't alter VINs or ever tamper with odometers or overbill customers. Now, if you are convicted of some type of automotive-related crime or financial crime, like let's say you go out and rob a bank in the middle of the year, more than likely the state of New York is going to revoke or suspend your dealer's license. So you have to have all your signage and certifications, failing to keep records at your license location. So when you're keeping those records, keep them at your license location. The state doesn't want you taking records home at night. They want your records to be right there at your office at all times. Unlawful use of a dealer plate. So, I mean, you couldn't lend a dealer plate out to another dealer or anything like that. You couldn't use a dealer plate with an expired license. Okay, so do please keep that in mind. Making any false statements on your dealer license application or submitting any false documentation as well would never be allowed. So just operate your business with the highest level of ethical standards. Be honest with every single one of your customers, and you're going to be in business for many, many years. When you take the steps that I'm showing you in your New York dealer training course to maintain 100% compliance, number one, you'll never have a license suspended and you'll never get any type of fines from the state. So I'm a big believer that 100% compliance equals 100% profits. So please do everything that I'm showing you here to maintain 100% compliance with your dealership. We are a tightly regulated industry because we tend to be a very high profit industry that has had a lot of fraud in the past. Please remember, 100% compliance equals 100% profits. I hope you're finding this information very beneficial. Let's move on to the next unit.